There has been a recent grassroots revival of women taking on Bill C-16. To refresh your memory, Bill C-16 was introduced in the House of Commons in May 2016 and enacted into law the following year, in June 2017. Bill C-16 added the terms gender identity and gender expression to the Canadian Human Rights Act and to our criminal code. A lot of the initial discourse around Bill C-16 was centered around pronouns and compelled speech, not necessarily the tensions or potential conflicts between the rights of trans people and the rights of women. Many high-profile speakers, such as Jordan Peterson, Gad Saad, Meghan Murphy, and others, spoke out against the bill at Senate hearings. However, a lot of women are still concerned about how Bill C-16 might impact female-designated spaces, so particularly how biological males who self-identify as women become entitled to enter female spaces, such as female changing rooms, washrooms, prisons, and shelters. Take the example of Madeline, formerly Matthew, Harks. Harks is a serial sexual offender who began identifying as a woman in 2014. It is unknown whether Harks has undergone any kind of gender-affirming surgery or process. And according to a 2006 psychiatric assessment, Harks has an all-encompassing preoccupation in sexually abusing young girls. Harks was moved to women's prison after claiming to be trans, and while he was locked up with female inmates, he was convicted of sexually assaulting at least 2 women. Another example. Gyms such as Good Life Fitness allow members to use the changing room of the gender that they identify with. But if a woman were to approach management to complain about a male-bodied person being in the women's changing room, she would be violating the no judgment philosophy of Good Life Fitness, and she could have her gym membership revoked for bringing up her concerns. The women's rights organization Canadian Women's Sex-Based Rights, or CASBAR, is one group that is trying to get Bill C-16 repealed or at least seriously examined, according to CASBAR's Creative Communications Director Esmeralda V. Doing similar work is an Ontarian woman named Tracy, who has been contacting members of Parliament all over the country and asking them to modify or repeal Bill C-16. Barely any political officials have responded to her. But one MP, Conservative Ted Falk, wrote this to her in an email. The Standing Committee on Justice and Human Rights was tasked with studying this bill to consider ways to improve it. Instead, the committee decided not to study the legislation at all after hearing only from the Minister of Justice and her staff. While the normal procedure would be to hear from a variety of witnesses so parliamentarians can consider if a bill should be improved upon, no such interaction was allowed. And indeed, if you look at the public online records, they show that the Standing Committee on Justice and Human Rights only hosted 5 witnesses during their study of Bill C-16. One witness was then Justice Minister Jody Wilson-Raybould, who was the MP that first introduced Bill C-16, and the 4 other witnesses were Department of Justice staff. So no outside organizations or experts came to testify in front of the committee on the impacts and consequences of Bill C-16, which is really quite unusual for a major bill like this one. And the weirdness around this bill isn't limited to the lack of expert testimony. One activist named Jennifer Ann noticed a gender-based analysis, so a GBA, also now known as a GBA+, had not been performed on Bill C-16. But back in 1995, the Government of Canada had committed to performing a GBA on all future legislation and policies in order to eliminate gender inequality. However, a GBA on Bill C-16 was nowhere to be found. A Quebec-based women's rights group, Pour les droits des femmes, had asked the government way back in November 2016 to release the GBA, but the entire report was deemed cabinet confidence material, and no pages were releasable. Shortly after the October 2019 election, Jennifer launched a House of Commons e-petition, and as the first step, she obtained the necessary 500 signatures. But as the next step, Jennifer has to find an MP willing to sponsor and present the petition. But as the petitioner, Jennifer is limited to contacting a maximum of 5 MPs, and each MP is given 30 days to accept or decline the petition before their opportunity to sponsor it expires. Jennifer started contacting Conservative MPs who had voted no to Bill C-16 back in the day. When I interviewed her, she told me she thought finding an MP to work with would be a walk in the park. However, her first choice of MP, Candice Bergen, did not respond in 30 days, and the opportunity expired. The second MP, Diane Finley, declined the petition. Her third choice, Alain Reyes, sent her an email saying he would not take it on. Gérard Deltel also recently refused, which means Jennifer can pick only one more MP before her e-petition is nullified, and that'll be it. It appears that MPs might be scared of appearing transphobic by taking on this petition, but it is explicitly stated in parliamentary resources that sponsoring an e-petition does not necessarily mean that the Member of Parliament supports its content, so they're simply acting as an intermediary. Will any MP take this on? Will any MP be willing to reopen the discussion on Bill C-16? Only time will tell, and these women are on the front lines of getting us those answers. Thanks for watching. I'm Lindsay Shepherd for True North.